This is a weekly discussion we host, same time, same place. Whether you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, X, TikTok, wherever you're watching here today, thank you for being here. Great conversation for you today related to when ERP meets AI. So we're going to talk about more specifically how AI is changing ERP evaluations, where AI is actually adding real value versus just more marketing noise, the risks of over focusing on AI during ERP evaluation, and also what executives need to be thinking about now and in the future as they embark on their ERP and AI journeys. So great conversation. We're going to dive into the intersection of AI and ERP today, and just the right group of people here to help us do that, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. We have a cross section of people from a number of different software vendors that are right in the front lines of this whole discussion, as well as Christian from Technology Evaluation Center. So I'll introduce Christian and the rest of the team here in just a moment. But one other logistical thing, if you're watching here live, please feel free to drop in the chat any questions you have along the way. So we're going to keep an eye on the chat to answer any questions you have. So we'll be getting to those throughout the conversation. And if you don't mind dropping in the chat too, just let me know what city and country you're joining from. I always love to see where the global community is here today. So city and country, where are you at today? Love to hear from the audience here to get us started. And to have this conversation here today to talk about ERP meets AI. First of all, I want to introduce Christian from Technology Evaluation Center. So Christian, tell us a little bit about yourself and about the event that you guys have coming up, which is, this is meant to be a prelude to that event.
Thanks, Eric. And I have to say, I wish we could do more of these, because it's rare that we can get such an extreme panel that can provide great insights. But we reached out to you because with your audience, we wanted to let you guys know about an event that we're going to be hosting in Austin, Texas on February 23rd to 25th. It's actually called the Enterprise Software Showcase. And what we do here is we bring in different segments from users that are looking to modernize their existing technologies or implement AI strategies. But more importantly, we have vendors and consultants such as Third Stage, vendors such as Priority Software, Infor, Sage, Oracle, NetSuite, ECI. They're all going to be there, and you're going to be able to have an opportunity to hear exactly how they're implementing and planning their AI strategy and how they can help you with those planning as well. So I've been director for alliances and advisory now for about 4 years. I've been with the organization for about 15, and I'm looking forward to contributing to this conversation if I can in any way.
Yeah, likewise. And I appreciate you being here today. And I appreciate that event you guys host every year. You've done it for a long time. We've been involved for a few years now. And if you'd like here, let me see if I can pull it up here. If you'd like to register for that, I'm going to put up a QR code here in just a moment. That'll give you access to that. So if you go, no, except it's not working. Hold on. Bear with me. We have a discount code. We'll drop it in the chat if we can't get it to pop up here. For some reason, the QR code thing's not working. But we can get you 50% off to that as well. So be sure to take advantage of that. And I am going to try and get this up here if I can get the technical thing to work. Here as we're talking, I'll try again to get it on as we're talking. But I'll drop it in the chat as well as we get going here. In fact, I'll drop it everywhere but on LinkedIn right now because I can't drop it to LinkedIn from here, but I'll do that in a second. So you'll see if you're watching anywhere else, you'll see a link in the chat. Use the promo code ThirdStage50, and you'll get 50% off your registration fee for that. So that'll be an exciting event. And all the vendors that you see here today are going to be involved with that event as well. And so I want to quickly introduce each of them and then just dive into it and talk about AI and ERP and how it's all come together in their worlds and in their parts of the world with their customer base and whatnot. So I'll just go around the table here on the screen. Gareth, why don't we start with you from Sage ERP?
Yeah, so I'm Gareth Guest. I'm Director Staff Architect for Sage. I cover the X3, SO, and 100 and 300 product lines within the ERP space. So been with them for about coming up to 9 months now.
Great to see you. Thank you for being here all the way from the UK. And then Tanya from Infor, tell us about yourself.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. I'm Director of Product Management for Artificial Intelligence here at Infor. And so we do all things AI enabling our cloud suites for our customers.
Great. Thank you for being here. And you were at our Stratosphere conference last year as a speaker and did a great job. So it's always good to see you speak and share your knowledge. And Craig, you too. I haven't seen you in a few months. But what is your situation at Oracle? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Happy New Year, everyone. Craig Sullivan. I'm a group vice president here at Oracle NetSuite. I lead our target market product strategy organization. So that's a combination of industries as well as the international markets, so countries. I've been here for approaching 26 years, actually. So a long journey with the NetSuite team.
Perfect. And then Paul from ECI, tell us about yourself.
Yes, Paul Farrell, Senior Vice President of our Product Management for ECI. We're a product-focused ERP company providing solutions across a range of product industries. I'm particularly focused around our manufacturing industries, and very glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. And then last but not least, Evgenia from Priority Software.
So hello, I'm Evgenia Kontorovich from Priority Software. I'm leading the Priority ERP product management group and specifically focused on AI. I've been doing AI for over 10 years, so I'm happily doing it in Priority now and happy to be here.
Great. Thank you for being here again, as always. And Christian was kind enough to post a QR code just to the left of his head there. There's where he's pointing. You can scan that QR code and you'll get that 50% discount. He's clearly a lot more technically competent than I am. So thank you for putting the QR code up there for us to get that registration code. So 50% off if you scan that, by the way, as we're listening here today. So I want to say hello to some audience members who've chimed in with the way they're joining from today. Jamie from joining from Phoenix. Charlotte joining from Dallas, Texas. Craig joining from Johannesburg, South Africa. Appreciate you being here today. Got a lot of others joining. JB says hello. Darian says hello. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate you joining. And again, if you have questions along the way, please drop them in the chat. I've got a few questions to get us started, but really love to hear what the audience's thoughts are. So, I guess maybe if you don't mind, Christian, I'll start with you on this first question, just because like Third Stage, TEC does a lot of guidance with helping clients through software evaluations and sifting through the noise and trying to figure out what's real, what's not, what's the best fit for a certain client. When you guys think about how you're evaluating ERP platforms, how is it different now with AI and everything else that's changing? How is it different now than it was even just 2 or 3 years ago?
Great question. And one thing I have to say is that since we're an impartial advisory firm, people come to us when they're actually looking to upgrade or replace their existing ERP system. So one of the first initial steps is always taking several steps back, knowing that the destination they want to head towards is more of an automated or AI technology. So for whenever we move forward along that path, it's always looking at solving business challenges and problems, being very specific in what departments and what's needed, and more importantly, the architecture and the technology that's associated to that can help them grow to that 3 or 5 year plan. We experienced this when the evolution of cloud happened 10 years ago. People were getting ready. How do we prepare for that? It's the same thing with AI. You still have to cover the basics, starting with what we're looking at in terms of the data, the technology, the integration and implementation of additional systems that allow them to speak to others. Because one thing is for sure, with all the vendors in play, they all have very well thought out strategies, but to attain that immediately has to be more of a planned approach.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And understanding that there's this future state vision that you might be aspiring to, but knowing how to pace yourself and how to incrementally get there rather than trying to bite off more than you can chew all at once, I would imagine.
Exactly. And I'm sure you see the same thing, Eric, too, as well in your line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious to hear from your perspective, Tanya, just because you're director of AI product management at a big software vendor. How are you guys viewing this with your customers in terms of you're probably on the forefront, way ahead of where any of your customers are, because that's your job, is to think ahead and how to push and expand the capabilities of the software. But how are you bringing that back to reality to where your clients are today?
Absolutely. And so at Infor, we are industry-specific ERP company. And so we do see that there is commonalities and differences across the industries in the way how they adopt it, especially for those who are more regulated industries, for example. And so I have to say, I mean, 2 to 3 years since you asked this question, I think the reality of the things, we have been using AI for a while. Similar to Evgenia, I've been in the space for more than 10 years doing practical AI implementations. And so whether some of our customers know or they don't know, but we have been using AI, just different variations of AI. If you have scheduling, for example, capabilities, a lot of those are driven by optimization, which is one of the AI techniques. If you're looking at the forecasting piece of things, yes, you could use statistical forecasts, but also there is a machine learning powered forecast. And so I would say the shift that we have noticed over the last 2 or 3 years is more kind of, I would say, democratization of AI. Now that we could have, seamless conversation, which is powered by those large language models, but behind the scenes, there is already a lot of technology base that's been built and integrated into the cloud suite that helps our customers day in and day out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. And what do you see? So Evgenia, similar situation as a product director at Priority Software. What are some of the capabilities in ERP systems or AI capabilities in AI systems that are actually delivering business value today versus what might be more marketing hype or more future state vision on the product roadmap? I mean, what do you see do you have examples or areas where you're seeing more customers gravitate towards AI and actually see some early wins in that area?
So I think that in many cases, I mean, AI is being used so widely today, right? And going back to what Tanya said, right? There was a lot of AI before the large language models that was already giving value to customers. So I think that when we see people actually getting value from AI, right? All the different types of AI that exist, those are specifically things where they either optimize their processes, right? So they have more savings, maybe they have better demand forecast, and then they have less stockouts, less waste, etc. Right? More revenue. So those things are definitely bringing value. Everything around the efficiency of people, right? Can they do more with less people? Not necessarily, just to cut the cost, but specifically because it's very hard to hire people today. Okay, if you have a warehousing solution, can you get more jobs done with fewer, warehouse employees and things like that? So I think that in cases where actually the use case is tangible and then tangibly translated into value, this is where people actually see ROI, right? Because then they can really measure, okay, what was our situation before we put this specific solution, and what is our situation now, right? Can we do more with less, or can we do more with the same, right? So those are the use cases where people can see real value. I think when people expect to kind of use AI as a silver bullet, then they really need to get their expectations, checked, because it's really a bite-sized thing, right? You can chop off savings, you save a little bit here, you improve a little bit there. So as long as they have this reality check, I think they can take the measured steps and really see the value where it's most optimal for them, right? Instead of something very big. I think it's like Christian said, right? They have this big vision. You cannot get to the last point of it from the get-go, right? You need to have very specific steps. But I think that AI, like the classical AI, is giving a lot of value to people, even before we get to the agents and things like that, because those things are still very difficult to measure, right? And some of those automations that agents bring, they might have existed before, right? So for example, Priority has a very advanced automation capability. So if we add AI on top, how much extra gain would you get? This is something that is difficult to measure still, I think, right? I don't say that there won't be a benefit, but I think this benefit is less tangible.
Right.
Whereas in other places, it's much easier to see, right? If you have 1% improvement in forecast accuracy, it's very easy to put a dollar mark to it.
Right. And then others might be more intangible as far as, making people's jobs easier or making them more productive, there's still value to it. It's just sometimes harder to measure.
No, there is value to productivity, but it's more difficult to kind of put a number to it, right? And again, doing more with same amount of people, or doing more with less people, it's also important because I've seen customers who have a lot of trouble hiring new talent, hiring new employees, right? So they essentially need to do more with less people, not because they want to save on the headcount, but because they just can't hire that headcount. So, you know, any efficiency on the floor is very important to them, right? So this is also a benefit that it's not a saving, but it's still a very important efficiency gain.
Right. So Craig, from an Oracle NetSuite perspective, how are you seeing business value from AI, and also, you know, if you'd like to maybe chime in on how you're seeing your customers evaluate NetSuite and other platforms they might be considering?
Yeah, it's interesting listening to the the panel's comments, because you know we kind of see a lot of evolution in how how business leaders are actually even thinking about evaluating business systems. And so, you know, one of the things that we've seen in our prospect base and indeed in our customer base is actually the use of AI to evaluate AI. You know, the use of ChatGPT to to answer questions related to what's the the best business system to help me with my inventory management challenge, or or my payables issue. And so, you know, what that's led to is, you know, an even more educated, if you will, discussion, even in the first interaction with a prospect or a customer, as they're looking to evolve how they run their business and how they seek to solve business problems. So, you know, that's a very interesting phenomenon that we're working with our customers on, and having those deeper discussions right from the very beginning of our interactions. And then, you know, the other part of the question in terms of the capabilities, and I agree, you know, with Tanya and Eugenia, that, you know, AI is not new. It's been around for many years in various forms, and is adding value today across many businesses with many vendors. What appears to have shifted is the bringing of AI, you know, with the advent of the LLM technology, to the forefront of the user experience. And so again, the expectation is now that you can have this discussion, have this interaction with your business system using this technology to get those deeper insights. So it's actually becoming more of a advisor, a provider of insight in sort of more end user, more tactical workloads, if you will, versus where it's been deployed traditionally, which is at sort of the scale, sort of automation, operational levels of the business. And so it's sort of a very interesting shift that we're seeing, both in that initial interaction, you know, where we've got a more educated, you know, deeper understanding with those prospects, and then the expectation that that same technology that they've used to educate themselves around the value propositions of these business systems will actually then serve them in achieving their business goals. And I fully agree with Christian, your comment earlier on about the you know, taking, you know, steps backward. In essence, with all of these things, you have to start with the end in mind and know what it is that you're trying to achieve in order to best evaluate whether the system that you're looking at or systems, you know, provide those you know, will provide the best outcomes.
Right. Then Paul, from an ECI perspective, you know, when you see customers evaluating your product and looking at areas of business value, what are some of the things they're considering, or some of the things that you're seeing work in that regard?
No, again, thank you. I mean, I think just to sort of preamble it a bit, you know, I've been in the ERP space before ERP was coined for over 35 years. And funnily, the very first system I worked on had embedded CRM, manufacturing, distribution, procurement, capacity planning. It had HR, had payroll, all embedded within the one platform. Granted, it was green screen, but it was all embedded in that one platform. And still today, people are pushing the desire that they want one solution to run everything. But so this is nothing new. And during that time, I've seen the huge technology leaps from proprietary systems to open systems, which was massive, went for a tenth of the cost, for 10 times the power of computing, through to relational database management systems, workflow management systems, service-oriented architectures, the pickup to the cloud and the browser-based experience, all iterations around, I think, ERP, but really sort of shining the stone more rather than really fundamentally changing what's happening. And I think we're in a real fundamental change now in what ERP is. Now, as far as the end user is concerned, they should still look at the applications they're delivering, I think not really through a technology lens, but how it's going to support them in their business, how it's going to help them grow, how it's going to help them drive value, how it's going to help them unlock potential, which is, like, I think, a key thing that the new modern systems will do. And so they need to look at technology and how it's delivering that, rather than the shiny penny. And I do know I was part of one of the first systems that introduced workflow into the product, and you'll be surprised every time the system couldn't do something, say, oh yes, workflow, just add a workflow for that, add a workflow for that. And all of a sudden you now have an implementation that's 20 times the length that they thought it was going to be, constructing a system where the customer thought they were buying a product to run their type of business, and now they configure it. And I think we have to be careful with AI on how it fits into it becomes an excuse of that as well. So if I'm looking at a horizontal ERP, or you need to do inventory optimization, or this supplier's late, then AI will tell you what to do. Well, the system should be telling you what to do, and you should be buying an ERP system that's always already optimized for that type of workflow. What I truly think it is going to be differentiating, and I get back to ERP hasn't changed a lot, is basically managing transactions. And when you get a transaction into the ERP system, it optimizes that all the way through. Takes a sales order, turns it into a job, turns it into a shipment, invoices it, gets a payment. It manages all of that. Where I think AI and the new generative AI and LLM models are really going to revolutionize ERP is how it connects to the way that people do business, which is not structured data. It's emails, it's calls, it's drawings, it's PDFs, it's all these other types of things. And they spend all that time getting that accurately into the ERP so that they can then optimize the process and the value and get it through. So we're seeing, and we are really seeing this, is that customers are using AI to take that unstructured data, turn it into structure, and then process it effectively through the operation. But there's another data source that's out there as well, which again tends to be a specialist one, which I think, again, AI is going to revolutionize, and that's the signal data source. You think of all that huge amount of data from machines, from phones, from that whole industrial IoT, again, dream that's been out there for many, many years. Generative AI, again, is part of an ERP product that's a best-in-class citizen in that ecosystem, is going to be able to allow people to take that and, again, drive that through and help them the way that they're executing the business. And that's why I think we're at the cusp. We're some way from it, but we're at the cusp of how AI is really going to revolutionize ERP. And I think some ways take ERP to the dream that everyone always thought it would be. But it was always, how do you get the accurate information in? How do you get the accurate information out? And how do you make sense of it? ERP has always been very good at optimizing processes once it's got those clean transactions. And I think when people are looking at and evaluating ERP, they really need to look at ERP less of an app as an application and more as of a platform that takes complex business entities and makes sense of it. How do you take a bill of material and cost it? How do you take a bill of material and drive a works order effectively? All of those types of things. But the way that gets access, the way that that interacts with the value streams, both internal and externally, is going to change massively, and is truly going to sort of deliver this vision, which, was right there over 35 years ago when I started. And we see people still struggling with it today. But I don't know if anyone remembers back to the first Power BI demos that Microsoft used to do. That was going to revolutionize getting data from all these different sources and managing it. How many customers still have a good customer data platform that consolidates data from every source around the organization so they know what's going on? Not many, because it's tough to do. And I think this ability to take different data types, see them together in one cohesive manner that people can make sense of, whether you be in ERP, whether you be in CRM, whether you be in engineering, I think is what AI is really going to stitch that all together effectively. So that's why I think it's truly within a revolutionary area, I think, over the next couple of years and what it's going to do.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good overview of kind of a combination of what you're seeing today, but also where you think it's headed, and you get into some really interesting stuff around structured and unstructured data. And I think a lot of organizations don't fully realize how much power is there just in that one comment, in that one statement.
Agreed.
I want to come back and get your thoughts here in just a second, Gareth. Just to give you a chance to chime in on where you see the trends headed. But first, I just want to say hello to some people in the audience that are chiming in. Williams joins from Orlando, Florida. Thanks for being here today. Patrick is joining from Poland. Thank you for being here today. Sanjay says hello, good morning. Thank you for being here, Sanjay. And here's a question from, I'm actually, before I come back to this question, let me ask you, Gareth, let me round it out what we were just talking about as it relates to, from your perspective at Sage ERP, how are you seeing customers evaluate ERP systems in general with AI, and where are you seeing them actually see some early wins and immediate potential business value?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, it's more about being able to trust the AI. We hear a lot about hallucinations. We hear a lot about being able to layer LLMs and all of this technology, and we've been using it for years. And AI or ML has already been existing in machine data and integrated into back-end data systems. So it's been more data processing systems. Now, with the communication aspects and the use of the LLMs, we're getting to a situation where inference is and reasoning is kicking into those type of conversations. So people are concerned that is the core data that's coming out of the system trustworthy? Can I rely upon that data? And one of the things that we're emphasizing is you've got to be able to trust the data. So you've got to be able to prove that the data exists there. You've got to be able to build in observability so that people can actually truly understand that the data that's coming out of the system is not being manipulated by the LLM. But then where the caution needs to come in is in those conversations around, well, I now know that I don't need to go and necessarily get a consultant in to then analyze the data and augment that data from multiple systems. I can use the technology to connect to other systems, to bring in multiple views of where I am today, and then do some analysis and some reasoning behind it that gives me some insights that I might not necessarily have seen before. So we talk about trusted AI, which is really how does it engage with the data that's in the systems within your ERPs? I've spent the last 20 years implementing ERP, and I've jumped over the fence to work in delivering ERPs and building ERPs. And for my sins, I'm now leading all of the AI initiatives across the ERP space within the ERP BU. And one of the key things for me when I'm engaging with customers is, what is the accuracy of the data? Well, I can prove that. That's easy to prove. But how do I prove the value that's going to come out of the conversational aspects, and how do I improve the persona that I'm engaging with, and how do I deliver the right value to that persona as I'm going through? And they're the conversations I'm having with customers. And that's probably going to be the biggest challenge for us is are we pushing on the right personas in those business environments? Because it's not necessarily the executive in the organizations that are using these tools all the time. It's people in the production lines, or within warehouses, or within sales functions, and are they getting the real benefit from those from that reasoning and that output that's coming from the systems? And that's the question that I'm getting asked all the time is where is the value really coming from in the reasoning that comes off the back of the AI that we're delivering today? Because we've been, as everybody said, I concur with everybody, we've been delivering ML for years, and streams of data. Now it's reasoning. Reasoning is different. Reasoning causes hallucinations and can drive you down different routes. But how can you build trust with your partners and your customers to deliver the right outcomes going forward with the AI?
Yeah, that's really well said. And just a reminder, if you like this topic, if you like hearing from different software vendors and want to learn more about the enterprise tech community and trends in that space, the QR code right below me, right there. Scan that code if you want to learn more about the event, right next to Christian's smiling face there. And you can learn more about the event and also get a 50% discount code. So everyone here that you're hearing from, their vendors are going to be at that event as well. So here's a question that we have from the audience, and I'm going to start with you on this, Craig. This is from Darian on LinkedIn. Darian says, when customers say we don't have AI today, what do they usually misunderstand about AI that's already embedded in their ERP system? And I like this question because I think a lot of times we think of AI as something external that we're adding to our ERP system, or in some cases we just, either we're super enamored by it or we're freaked out by it. Regardless of what we think about AI, is it a separate thing, or is it something that's really already embedded in the ERP system? In other words, is it transparent to employees that are using the technology, or is it something that actually is its own separate animal, if you will?
Yeah, it's a really good and interesting question, and I think each vendor here and will have a different perspective on this based upon their their respective strategy. As we've heard from a number of the folks on the panel, AI is not new. We've had various of these iterations of these technologies being applied to business systems for decades, and to great effect in driving automation and in some degrees autonomy and decision making on behalf of users and at an operational scale. What that tends to mean when we hear customers say, well, we don't have AI today, or we're looking for AI, is these days more of that that chat-based interaction, that LLM type mode of user experience where you can interact with your business system. At NetSuite, not only do we have the opportunity to embed AI throughout the entirety of the stack, leveraging the Oracle infrastructure all the way down to the autonomous database within the OCI infrastructure, and leveraging all of the back-end technologies for with machine learning, etc. But we're also embedding and making that chat-based interaction through Ask Oracle part of the primary user experience of the business system. So what you're seeing, and this is happening in other systems with Microsoft Copilot and other offerings too, where whether it be embedded like NetSuite is, or whether it's being added on, that's what we're seeing our customers ask for and sort of interpret as the absence of AI is can I in essence chat with my business system? Can I get insight through natural language? And can I basically get the inference that I need in order to make the best business decisions? And then moving from there, do we have agents? Is there an opportunity to leverage the LLM technology to actually drive some of this autonomous behavior, some of this reasoning, some of this decision making to take some of the workload off of our end users? And I agree with Gareth. This isn't just about the executives. The executives make decisions, and we're working, and many business systems are providing more and more executive level insight to support and help decision making at that senior level. But what we're also seeing is the need for this technology to help people elsewhere in the organization do their jobs more efficiently, more effectively, achieve scale, without necessarily adding more humans to the processes. And that's actually a big part of the sort of the rationale behind the how do we leverage AI in our business systems is how can we make our organization be more effective, more efficient, perhaps without without growing the number of people, but being able to do a better job with the people that we have.
Yeah, yeah, really well said. And I have a question for you, Gareth. And this is from Sanjay on LinkedIn. And Sanjay says, "Do you think AI is going to revolutionize the way ERP systems work?" And I might add, if you don't mind, let me add to this question too. I'm going to build on something that that Craig just said, and that is that you talk about how AI is embedded in ERP already. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on before we get to this question. What are your thoughts on like how are your customers? When I say customers, I guess I mean the end users, not necessarily executives or leaders, but how are end users responding to AI? Do they think it's cool? Are they excited about it? Or are they sort of turned off by it just because they're so tired of hearing about it? Are they skeptical? What's the knee jerk reaction you're getting?
I think it's varied. It really is varied around where it is, depending on how much exposure you've got, how busy you are. I think is some of this. We talk about playing with AI because the reality is you need to understand how it's going to affect your job and the role and the processes and how it's going to change the way of working. Will it revolutionize ERP? I'm not there at the moment from my perspective. I think it's going to change how you perceive ERP, how you interact with ERP, how you get data, and how data is shared across ERPs going forward. And I think we're at one of these inflection points, one of these epochs where data boundaries are going to drop. And there was actually another question on here that I'm going to partially cover at the same time because I think it's there. One of the things about AI, or the latest generation of AI, where we're working right now, is it has the ability to understand the physical world. You can input data from images, from voice, from paperwork that you have lying around the office. So it's more about interpretation and using that to drive and change the way you work on a day-to-day basis. So the systems are going to provide you the capability. As vendors, we're going to give you these new tool sets that are able to interpret physical asset data and convert it into digital data that then becomes part of the ERP. But then what it's going to do is it's going to then enable you to do different things with that and use it to improve your processes and the way you work with things going forward. So where I'm engaging with people on the floor, as it were, it's more around how do we free them up to do other tasks. So that day-to-day business process that you do today, how does an agentic ERP change the direction of where you are today? So processing that end-to-end sales order, does it now free you up to be more engaged with your customer base and therefore make them feel more respected and engaged with you? So you can get on and build relationships, which you might not be able to do today because you're so stretched with a lack of manpower. So it's those type of conversations that we're having with those individuals, and it's changing that mentality. This is not going to get rid of. There are certain industries where people are going to lose out, but in the ERP space, it's going to free people up to really focus on the jobs to be done. And I think that's something that's really coming out of our environment, is focusing on those jobs to be done as a business helps you drive engagement going forward. And that's what you should be thinking about when you're purchasing ERP software now, is how do I get the jobs to be done? What are the jobs to be done? And how does it free me up to do more jobs going forward?
Right.
Can I jump in again, Eric, real quick?
Sure, please.
It's sort of just building on the topic, and it actually takes me back to something Paul said earlier on this morning about, in essence, the nature of ERP systems has been largely the same for their entire life. It's the transaction systems that are, they capture in essence the meat and potatoes, the nuts and bolts of what's going on in the business and help you make sense of that. And so, I would actually suggest, that Sanjay's question is a good one, but perhaps it's more of better to sort of think about it in the context of, does AI revolutionize the way we work with ERP systems? not necessarily revolutionizing the way that ERP systems will work. And it comes back to something that I think you touched on, Gareth, which is the willingness, in essence, and the readiness of the organization and the people within the organization to embrace the potential of these AI capabilities within these business systems to revolutionize the way that their business works, to drive towards the change that is necessary for them to be competitive, to deliver more value, more respect, as you put it, to their customers, better collaborations with their vendors, more efficiency with their teams. And so thinking about it in that context, I think is perhaps not necessarily a better, but an alternative perspective to take when thinking about how AI can help anybody with their business challenges.
Right.
And if I may add, I'm sorry, if I may add,
Sure.
so sorry to interrupt. So I think this is a really key. How do you interact with the system? I think about the days, you're trying to find the right screen in the application. Let's say, if it's a day-to-day activity, it's one thing, but, you only, do your, reviews, or you get on maternity leave or whatever once a year, right? And so how long does it take you to really find those things? And so now if you have an assistant that helps you take to the right screen of the application, it helps you get those things done. It's really value add activity. And so when we think about it from the perspective of how do you interact and how much time it's spent, in the past, nowadays we could do those things a lot more faster and a lot more efficient. And it's not just one-way communication where those embedded experiences were just put into us to say, this is what you got to do. Now, since you have an assistant, you could actually challenge, you could have a follow-up questions, and it could actually change the whole way how we do things. And so thinking about how do we help our customers, I think it's kind of boils down to the value escalators that we would talk, in the past all the time. Well, you could give me insights of what's happening, and Jenny is wonderful at it. It does me, gives me insight this time that it will look me on the screen and try to figure this out. But then it also taken it to the next level where I leverage on other AI technology to tell me what's going to happen, to give me recommendations on the optimization and prescriptive side what to do. And I think we're getting to the point where, like, at least from product management perspective, we spend a lot of time thinking about cognitive analytics. Tell me the things that I don't know yet. But to the point of what everybody was bringing up, we have all this data that's sitting around there. And as a human beings, we have to sleep, we have to eat, but AI have access to it. And it can actually look through the things and actually point me to the right places. Have you noticed this has been happening that before you wouldn't have if you wouldn't have access to those technologies? So I think in a nutshell of how, we all were trying to converse on it. So ERP as such is a core is staying there, but the way how we interact, how it makes us more productive, how it helps us drive to the decisions faster, that's where AI is going to help.
Yeah, and of course, mirroring or ensuring that people and AI come together to do those two things, to be able to interact and take full advantage of AI, because the tool itself isn't going to do what you say without people understanding how to use it and how to put the right guardrails in place and all that good stuff.
Human in the loop for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Here's a couple comments, and I have another question for you, Tanya, actually, here in a second. This is from the audience. But so this is a comment from Jamie, take away the keyboard, and that will be the pivotal moment. That's not too far-fetched, I don't think, to think that we may not need a keyboard, especially with that physical, I forgot which one of you were just talking about, that the physical artifacts that AI can process, not just the stuff that's on your computer. But the question I wanted to get to for you, Tanya, is, and I want to ask you this in the context of knowing what I know about Infor Velocity and the AI capabilities I know you guys are building there. And I'm curious to hear what the other vendors think on this too. But this is from Antonio on LinkedIn, and he's relating it to SAP, but it's a general question for any vendor. The best part of my experience was and still is working with SAP. One aspect of its approach is to embed AI directly into its own ecosystem rather than relying heavily on integrations with external systems. Do you think this choice will affect its future growth and the future of ERPs following the same approach? So I'm going to change this a little bit for you, Tanya, and just ask, where does AI need to be? Does AI need to be within your core ERP system and sort of limited to that? Or do you see AI as something that can sit on top of multiple systems if you're working in a best of breed sort of environment, or do you need the latest and greatest, newest technology to take advantage of AI, or could you even use your legacy systems to take advantage of it? How do we navigate that?
Yes. So I think maybe the answer is a little bit of both. And so what we have is that when we talk about Infor, we talk about cloud suites. And so a cloud suite to us is not just a core ERP, it's actually a combination of the applications that are working closer together. So it could be your ERP itself, it could be your workforce management, could be your CRM sitting on top of the HCM, the human capital intelligence sitting together. And so from the AI perspective, full integrated within my screen, some embedded experience. We have users going on the screen, and it provides them product recommendations for upsell to take it to the next level. That's wonderful, especially in the young workforce that's joining. Sometimes they don't know the knowledge of this hundreds and thousands of SKUs that are out there. So it comes.
Oh, we're losing time.
Kind of having those solutions. Hello?
Oh, you're back.
Did I?
You're back.
Oh, I was talking all this time thinking that I'm.
We lost you for about 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds there.
It was me. Yeah.
Oh, we're losing you. Oh, we totally lost her now. I really pissed her off, didn't I? I didn't think it was that hard. I didn't mean for that to be a hard question. Just kidding. But maybe I'll maybe ask you, any of you guys want to chime in on this as far as where AI needs to sit in ERP, sit outside of that?
Yeah, I'll quickly chime in first, if that's right. So from my perspective, when I'm looking at ERP now, both my own and my competitors, I'm looking for whether it's embedded or whether it sits on top to understand, how integrated with the data layer it is. Now, I'm going to inflect a little bit here because I don't want to question how each of us have implemented it, because that's down to different architectures, and that's a real challenge right now. We've got different technologies, architectures, and capabilities, and that's a real challenge to then deliver this stuff. What I think is coming out of the AI deliveries is actually a set of standards that allow really good communication, interapp to interapp. So from my perspective, I get to the stage where it doesn't really matter whether it's into your application or whether it's on top of your application, so long as you've got a good interconnectivity layer. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to be able to take advantage of those technology standards that are being driven by the AI technology environment. And over the next year, there are going to be some of those coming out again, updates to those standards. And they will change the way that we operate and how we work with other vendors and other platforms. The composable ERP becomes reality with agentic AI and those operability standards that are now coming out. So from my perspective, I think you can embed it if you want, but the reality is you're going to have to allow communication between different platforms and capabilities to be able to share data and manage data, and it's going to become a lot more friendly in the ERP space. Let's put it that way from my perspective.
Right. Yeah. Very well said.
I would also like to add, you want to go back to Tanya?
Yeah, Tanya, maybe finish your thought if you don't mind, and I'll come back to you, Evgenia, if that's all right.
Okay. My apologies. I don't know at which point in time you lost me. But yes, having embedded experience is extremely beneficial and helpful. At the same time, we all know that the reality of the things, a lot of our customers have data distributed across multiple systems. They should be talking to each other. And so the whole idea of having an invocation of an assistant, having conversational interface that runs behind the scenes and actually picks the right tool for the right question. I was given an example at the beginning, right? So let's say that I'm talking and I'm trying to figure out what would be the best schedule, right? It should intelligence enough with all the supervisor agents to call in the right tool and help me get the answer back. So I think with us working across, have an embedded combination and also the integration that are sourced through the same interface is going to help to those questions much faster. And it's intelligent enough behind the scenes to pick the right tool, the right agent for what we're trying to achieve.
Knowing where to find the information it needs or which system it needs to go to, that sort of thing.
Exactly. That goes back to the data and metadata, right? So it's a natural language process. And so we do need to have a good metadata around all of those things to know which tool to call when that will provide you the best answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Evgenia, you were going to say something along these lines too.
Yeah, so I to kind of continue what Tanya said. So the way I see it is that it's still an embedded story, right? So when an agent within an ERP can kind of talk to some data source outside of ERP is, to my point, it's still somewhat embedded, right? Because the ERP needs to be aware of those other systems, right? And how we make those systems essentially aware of each other is one thing. And there is a certain benefit on that, because still, I think when you bring in a platform like ERP with some built-in AI, and maybe AI that can kind of expand its reach beyond the ERP a little bit, you can do it with minimal, investment in manpower, etc. Right? But I think that some people also have the expectation of, okay, what happens if I, bring AI that is completely disconnected, right? People still think about, okay, can I bring my own data science people? Can I bring my own models? What happens then? And then the answer to that is that the ERP needs to be easy to integrate with if those people choose to kind of bring in their own AI or bring in their own data science. There is a cost to that, because I think it's much more expensive to implement. But there is also benefit, right? And some customers are finding benefit in having those systems, but then we need to be ready with all the different APIs, whether we have our, I don't know, we give an MCP server that allows people to kind of interact with our ERP, whether they'll give, APIs to get the data. So I think the selection in the end that is kind of, people need to understand, like, what do they need, right? It's more in their hands than for us. I believe that all of us, to some extent, I'm bringing in, kind of built-in AI, right, in different levels and different forms. But then if customers choose to do their own thing, we should still be open enough to allow them to do this. And I think not to let them,
choose
one versus the other necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If I can just.
I think that's what will happen over time. As this gets more commoditized, you're going to go to businesses. I already have a subscription with ChatGPT, and I'm paying X amount, and I've trained these models, and I've been doing that for 5 years. I now want to replace my financial system or my manufacturing system. I want to utilize all of that and plug that in. So I think over time, people are going to be able to want to leverage their existing investment. We see this in other areas of ERP. People, that have commerce channels, they put a huge amount of investment into commerce, where they get it trained exactly the way that they want it, the way that they sell and market to their customers. When they go to ERP to get the benefits of then the business execution, they don't want to throw that away and take the ERP's commerce solution, which might be there. They want to be able to leverage the investment they've made, and they want their ERP to be a best-in-class element of that ecosystem. And that's why I said up front that I think ERP is going to evolve into a platform that supports the way that businesses want to work. But again, businesses need to focus on, manufacturing guy, value, like they always do. And where is that value, and how do you get rid of that dead cost? How do you get rid of it taking 2 weeks to produce a quote to send back to a customer 2 weeks after they send you the email for the request, with all the details that are there? By the time someone translates it, gets it in, costs it, how do you streamline that? And I think this is an area, and I think everyone said it in different words, that AI is absolutely going to revolutionize. It already is. We're seeing it right now with customers today, where they take drawings in, they just go and drag it into their ERP, and it generates a bill of materials, where before that would have taken days. With engineers, expensive people, and other things, where they want to leave those expensive people and other engineers to work on the real difficult things, but those rote things that you do 10 estimates a day of, you want to happen automatically. And I think that's what everyone needs to do, is concentrate on where the business value, concentrate on where the value is. And I think many people will be surprised at how AI is going to revolutionize some of these areas. And it is happening today in a lot of businesses that are out there. But getting back to that first point is, I think this is going to be commoditized as it moves on. People will invest in it, and they want to leverage that in their ERP decisions moving forward. And if you've got a closed ERP where everything's embedded and it's unchangeable, then you're not going to be able to help them leverage the investments they've already made.
Yeah, really well said. And you're actually leading into my lightning round closing question I have for everyone, Paul, and that is, I'll start with you, Gareth, and I'll finish with you, Christian. I'll let you have the last word here. But Gareth, where do you see AI in ERP in, say, 3 to 5 years from now? What's going to look different that we're not seeing yet so far here today?
Well, my personal opinion is that I think we'll stop talking about AI because AI will just be naturally in the systems.
I think a lot of us will be glad to when that day comes, so we can stop.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll be tied
really
into
happy for that.
their product name to something AI.
Yeah, so I think that's the key thing for me. But where I'm most interested is, and I was talking to somebody earlier today about this. It's a bit like the Apollo programs. When the Apollo program started, they went with the aim of going to the moon, but actually we had things like microwaves, miniaturization, and a whole bunch of different technologies spun off the back of it because of it. There are some fantastic patents coming out right now to miniaturize technology and reapply and reuse technologies and do different things. So it's not just AI now, it's then what can we do with IoT and other capabilities to help make things more efficient going forward off the back of this. So how do we change software engineering? How do we change the delivery of the ERP? And then the knock-on capabilities that might make you even more efficient. And that's what I'm interested in as we go into the next 3 to 5 years. So yes, we will build agentic and all those capabilities into products, but how does data sharing, how does standardization, how does that all come together in a future vision? And I think that's where I'm most interested.
Yeah, very interesting. How about you, Craig? Where do you see AI headed here in the next 3 to 5 years within the world of ERP?
I completely agree with Gareth. First point, it'll just become part of the system, not necessarily part of the naming of these solutions. Directionally, I think what you'll see is the increased focus on context, on ensuring that within an industry, within a specific business, within a function, and within a role within the business, that the AI will become more adept at helping at all those various levels, because it understands not just the business, but has the spatial awareness of where that business sits in the universe, so to speak, and where the user's role sits within the business within that universe. So as well as with these roles evolving to benefit from AI, the systems will evolve, and the AI tools will evolve to really focus on solving the specific needs of those users in a way that is extremely organic and extremely natural to helping them achieve their particular job goals and business goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Tanya, how about you from Infor perspective? Where do you see AI headed here in the next 3 to 5 years?
I agree with the rest of the team who said that it's going to become a lot more integrated, and we're going to start talking about it more from the system perspective. I do see it's been a lot more personalized. So as you start your day, Eric, or whoever starts their day, right, you'll have a set of recommendations and things to look into from the perspective of the context. And I think we will start generating a lot more things on the fly, including, those screens and the dashboards, the things that were before part of the standard content. At least that's where we headed a lot of our investment, to have this more personalized experience and have a lot more adaptive UX in the front.
Yeah. And how about you, Evgenia?
So I think everyone just said the things that I wanted to mention. Because really people do expect, going to what Tanya said, right? People expect that things have become kind of conversational. The whole experience changes to the point of, adaptive dashboards and things like that. I also believe that kind of the day-to-day management and the maintenance of ERP systems should become easier as well. I mean, if we have people who write software, right, with things like Claude Code, we should expect ERP managers, ERP administrators to be able to do certain things with conversational interface easier, right? And if they need to write customizations, if they need to create dashboards, if they need to do all those things, essentially to be able to do them conversationally. So I think that kind of configurational aspect is going to be also kind of move towards something that is powered by the language models. And I also believe that we will have a lot more reasoning, right? So not just like the simple types of recommendations that are possible today, but maybe something that is more reasoning kind of like, right? So it's not like that I found a certain problem in your supply chain, but then to be really able to find the reasons for it and to be able to check all the different scenarios. I think this exists in some kind of POC level today in different places, but I haven't seen a cohesive solution that gives it. And I think customers need this as well. And the third part is the connectivity of data. The data connectivity is still a big issue, right? So people have a lot of platforms, they have the ERP, they have some data warehouse, they have other things. It's still a lot of headache to connect everything together. People spend so much time and money to kind of map and connect different data sources together. I really hope that AI will help us do this better and faster, and to kind of for systems for this metadata, right? And Tanya was speaking about metadata. For this metadata, essentially to become something that systems can communicate one with another, easier. Again, without having to have an integration project of 3, 4, 5, 6 months when people need to do a lot of that manual integration kind of work. So I hope AI can help us there too.
Yeah. And then last but not least, Christian, where do you see AI headed in the next 3 to 5 years from a customer perspective?
Well, from a customer perspective, I think most of them, I'd have to say about 60 to 70% of organizations will need to have some form of AI in place only to remain competitive. Just like we talked about agility, flexibility, they need to be able to get this information. But like what Eugenia was saying is, and even what Garrett was saying, is that the biggest issue that we've seen, and hopefully it will be resolved or some sort of solution will present itself, many different data sources. Someone is on a specific ERP system and doesn't want to talk to another. People are looking into composable, flexible systems these days. We're seeing the challenges now. Even when we look at our functional requirements, we've added, can this be done? And we still have not seen solutions yet. There are workarounds and APIs and connectivity issues, but 3 to 5 years, hopefully, all of us will be able to play nice together and open up our systems and the data and make things work. If not, people are going to be locked down to specific systems and forced to whatever that vendor offers.
Yeah, that was a whole nother can of worms I didn't have time to get to, is the whole vendor lock thing. But that's it's a great point though, because it gets into all the things that we won't be able to get into today around who owns the data, how much ownership do you have as a business owner if that data is being used to train other AI models that might benefit your competitors that are using the same technology. So that opens up a whole nother intellectual property / vendor lock / data ownership sort of discussion that we can't get to here today, but perhaps as a follow-up, we could do that. So really good stuff. So tell us one last time, Christian, a little bit about the enterprise solution showcase coming up, why people should attend, what to expect, all that stuff.
Yeah, like unlike this live stream being conversational, what we'll be able to address at the event itself, you'll actually be able to see the functional capabilities of solutions. All the vendors that are here on the panel will be providing demonstrations of their solution and how they've embedded AI or some high level processes, whether it's automation or ML, and how it applies to your business. But most importantly, the consultants, ourselves that will be there, will be able to answer some questions. We'll have real conversations with not just the vendors and see real life scenarios, but you'll be able to have one-on-one conversations to understand how things can impact your business, the steps to take forward, both from a consultancy, a vendor perspective, and even from other end users that are going through the same challenges and experiences you are.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say, unlike this panel discussion, we're not going to all get along like we are right now, because we'll all be in the same room. We're just going to brawl. But that's not what you said. Although you never know. You have to attend to find out if we're all going to get along in the same room.
Exactly.
But the QR code right behind you there again, do you mind pointing at it again just so everyone sees it?
There it is.
Scan that there. You can learn more about the event and also use that to get 50% off. If you end up going later and you don't use that exact link, just use the code third stage 50 and you'll get 50% off your registration for that. So we'll look forward to seeing all of you there, and hope to see many people listening to the show. Hope to see them at the event as well. So I want to thank you all for being here. This was a great conversation. It's always good to get a bunch of vendors with different but similar opinions all together to share your feedback and background. So thank you very much for all being here.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thank you to the audience. We'll repackage this, edit it, add some additional content, become part of our Transformation Ground Control podcast. You can find that at transformationgroundcontrol.com. You can see all the past episodes we've done of this show. But we'll be back same time, same place next week. Hope to see you at the ESS event next month, and have a great week in the meantime, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.